Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be taking a look at this fragrance, Gentleman Eau de Toilette Intense from Givenchy. Preceding this fragrance, we had the reimagining, the kind of re-release, but not really, of Gentleman Eau de Toilette, and then Gentleman Eau de Parfum, Gentleman Boisé. Now this one. In this video, I will show you guys the presentation. I'll break down the fragrance, let you know what I think about it, let you know, as always, whether or not I feel like you should check it out. So let's jump into it. As of this video, the fragrance still hasn't really hit discounters, but I imagine at some point in the near future, it will. So more than likely, if you want to pick it up right now, again, as of when I'm shooting the video, you're gonna have to pay retail more than likely. If you're watching this in the future though, you're in luck. You can probably find it at discounters. Probably, I don't know, maybe. Save yourself a little money potentially. That's always nice. Let's kick things off with the presentation like always. It's simple, but it's classy. We got the name of the house, name of the fragrance, size, concentration, all right there on the front. We've got the house logo up at the top, nothing on the sides other than the little band. On the back, they inform you that the bottle is optimized for the environment thanks to a 16% glass savings. So you want to make sure that you know that. And then on the bottom, you got your badge code and your barcode. Badge code here is 1B01. And here we've got the bottle. I really like the bottle design in the Gentleman line. I think it's classy. Like I said about the box, I mean, the whole presentation's kind of classy. Fits well in the hand. It's got a nice heft to it. It looks great. So again, on the front, name of the fragrance, name of the house. You have the logo at the top of the cap and on the back of the bottle. On the bottom, you will find your badge code etched into the glass. Cap does click into place. And I will waste a couple sprays for you guys, as always. It's a good atomizer, great distribution. This is a fragrance line that I very much adore. I think that Gentleman Eau de Toilette, again, we're talking about the new version of Gentleman Eau de Toilette, is probably the least impressive of the bunch. The Eau de Parfum really set things off. Absolutely love that one. And then Boisé, I think, is great as well. And it's all about the iris here. The iris in these fragrances is what draws me into it. It's kind of like an extension of the Dior Homme line to an extent, because the Dior Homme line nowadays, obviously not really very much based around iris. So it's almost like, as far as designer lines, main lines of designer houses, I'll say, that are running with iris as one of the main focal points, if not the focal point, the Gentleman line is pretty much the only one doing it and doing it well. Now you could say Prada, like Prada L'Homme, and that absolutely is a fantastic line of fragrances. So when I say that, I more so mean iris used in a similar way to how it was used in Dior Homme. So you get that richer, slightly darker, some people might say makeup-y or lipsticky type of iris, as opposed to the more soapy, powdery iris that you'll find in the Prada fragrances. So this one is a little bit interesting in terms of the naming conventions, because you had Gentleman Eau de Toilette, and then Eau de Parfum, and then you had Boisé, and then this one, Eau de Toilette Intense. So in terms of naming conventions, I guess that puts it somewhere between the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum. It's not quite intense enough to be an Eau de Parfum, but it's more intense than the normal Eau de Toilette. And interestingly enough, actually, that's kind of where the fragrance falls as far as how it smells. So joke's on me, I guess. It opens up fresh with a green cardamom and like a rubbing of basil. I know that doesn't make sense, but it's almost like you take a basil leaf. You know, herbs, that herbaceousness that comes out when you rub a leaf, kind of like that. It's especially prominent with mint, but pretty much any kind of herb will really release its aromatics if you give them a vigorous rubbing. That's not weird at all. Just rubbing my herbs. So yeah, it opens up with that green cardamom, rubbing of basil leaf, and then that iris, it comes in right away. It's not as dark, it's not as rich as the iris that you're gonna find in Gentleman Eau de Parfum, but it still makes itself known. It's not as powdery, but it still does have a nice density to it. But here in Eau de Toilette Intense, it's contrasted a little bit more with fresher notes. You've also got a spritz of citrus in the opening, so a little spritz of bergamot, not too much, just a real quick hit, just a flash of freshness from that citrus, and it pretty quickly fades back. And I'd say through the opening into the mid, it has this fresh sweetness that runs throughout the scent. Now, it's not overly heavy, that sweetness. It's not overly heavy-handed, but if you spray on a bunch of this, especially if we're talking, in summer, high heat type situations, it could come across cloying. So what happens if you spray this on too heavily, especially in high heat situations, is the fragrance goes from being this very nicely balanced bit of freshness and sweetness where people will smell you and think, wow, that guy's put together, smells great, fairly unique. Yeah, I don't know if they'll fairly unique, that guy, but you get the idea. But if you spray it on too heavily, it's going to be such an overload and overkill in high heat situations. It's going to overload people's sense of smell to the point that Jeremy Fragrance himself would take off his suit jacket, spin like a tornado, like a Tasmanian devil until it comes right in front of you and stops. He screams power and slaps you across the mouth. As it dries down, you get a little bit of green woodiness that comes out, cypress initially, and further into the dry down, a bit of dry cedar. How do you like that transition straight from absolute insanity back into the fragrance? And the tonka in here takes on eventually a bit of a warm vanillic tone. So as it dries down, eventually that fresh sweetness gives way to more of a warm sweetness and little traces of the herbaceousness, the greenness from earlier on carry over into the dry down. In a sense, sort of, this fragrance does what Dior Homme Eau used to do before it got axed, which is it makes a fragrance centered around iris, not in the powdery, soapy kind of way, and tries to present it as a more versatile, everyday wear kind of scent. I will say that Dior Homme Eau is a little bit classier to me than Gentleman Eau de Toilette Intense is. It's also maybe not as fussy because it's not as sweet. So between Dior Homme Eau and Gentleman Eau de Toilette Intense, I would say that this one is sweeter, a little bit louder, a little bit more attention grabbing in a way, more youthful, I would say. And Dior Homme Eau, like I said, the classier of the two. So like I said at the beginning of the review, in terms of scent profile, this one sits somewhere between Gentleman Eau de Toilette and Eau de Parfum. It is a little bit more unique, I would say, than Gentleman Eau de Toilette is, but it's not quite as heavy on that dark side, the rich side, the powdery side of iris like the Eau de Parfum is. In terms of longevity, it's good, 7+ hours, so nothing to complain about there. And in terms of projection, more moderate, I would say. It's not great, but it's not bad. In terms of seasons, that versatility that I talked about before comes into play. You can wear it in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, realistically in the winter too. It is the type of fragrance that I think you can find a situation to wear it in any season. And it splits pretty much evenly for me between daytime or nighttime use. It is office safe, but I wouldn't go too heavy. It's a good casual fragrance. You can wear it formally as well and potentially on a date. Now for me, I like this a lot. I don't like it as much as the Eau de Parfum. The Eau de Parfum is more my style, I guess I would say. And as far as this one or Boisé, that's really tough. And I think it would really just depend on what I want to wear that day. I know it's not a great answer, but they're both pretty close. Both have good versatility. Both smell very nice. Both have good quality. They're blended well. Everything works well. So overall, if you're a fan of this fragrance line, I would imagine that you'll be a fan of this fragrance in general. And if you're a fan of iris-based scents, you should check it out as well. I would say it does make this type of iris a little bit more accessible to just your everyday guy than the Eau de Parfum does. The Eau de Parfum is going to be a little bit more challenging for some people. So if you did smell the Eau de Parfum and you kind of like the idea of an iris-based fragrance, but you weren't sure when or how you could pull that one off, because to me, that one is really super simple, but I know some people have reached out to me in the past and said, I like it, but I don't know when I'd wear it or anything. If you have that kind of feeling toward Gentleman Eau de Parfum or Dior Homme Intense or even the original Dior Homme, then something like this could work for you and you should check it out. So there we go, Gentleman Eau de Toilette Intense. I think it's solid. Let me know in the comments below what you think about it. As always, thanks for hanging with me today. Thanks for your support and stay safe out there, guys, because I will see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you later.